Order! Order! You are an incorrigible delinquent at times. Behave yourself, man!
Well, as the Conservative Party continues to sell their Brexit deal during this election campaign, Labour still seem to be trying to walk a bit more of a tightrope. In the latest in our Target Voter series, we take a look at Labour's online campaign ads. There are videos which address Brexit, but across social media, are all Labour voters receiving the same message? Last night, we looked at some of the targeted advertising being put out by the Conservative Party on Facebook and Instagram. Tonight, we're looking at Labour. What are they spending and how? In the 7 days up to November 4th, the official party account has spent almost £55,000 on sponsored ads, most of it on this video. It's had up to 5 million page impressions on Facebook and Instagram, and it's also the pinned tweet on the party's Twitter account. It's aspirational, but it doesn't mention a single Labour policy. So where are they promoting it? Most of the ad spend was in England at almost 50,000. Where Labour has firmly planted a policy flag is on the issue of the NHS, a message made loud and clear in Manchester last night.
Under a Labour government, we have a health service, not a health market. And let's also be very clear, our NHS is not for sale. Not for sale.
And this is reflected in another batch of paid-for political ads online. This one claims Boris Johnson will sell our NHS to the USA, something the Conservatives say they won't do. Variations of the same message are appearing in feeds right now.
We'll be in government, and the first thing we'll do is try and bring people together over Brexit.
In this election, Labour is trying to appeal to both Leavers and Remainers when it comes to Brexit. But with targeted ads online, the party can focus on one side. This version says, vote for Labour to fight for Remain. It's been seen up to 250,000 times, mainly by 18 to 44-year-olds. Facebook don't tell us where in the country this ad is being seen, but you can tell us by clicking the Why Am I Seeing This Ad button and emailing us a screen grab to targetvoter@itn.co.uk. Well, just before we came on air, I spoke to Labour's Brexit Secretary, Keir Starmer, who has also been telling people today that if they want to fight to remain, they should vote Labour. So I asked him how people who want to fight to leave should vote.
Well, the proposition we're putting on the table, which is a deal will go up against Remain, means that if people want to leave, they can vote for that deal to leave. And I think it's very important that by the time we get to the referendum, legislation to implement the leave deal is already through Parliament, so that if people do vote to leave on that deal, we will leave on that deal, because I think that's the only proper way to do it.
But if you want to fight to leave, you want to leave as quickly as possible, and your opportunity is to vote Conservative and do that. Why on earth would you vote Labour and delay it by months?
Well, because the deal that Boris Johnson has negotiated is a very, very bad deal indeed. And therefore, even if you want to leave, you wouldn't want to vote for that deal.
Well,
because,
some people do.
I've spoken to...
Some Labour MPs do.
I've spoken to people... I've spoken to many thousands of people on both sides around the whole of the country over the last 3 years, and I've met many, many people who voted leave, who don't want to take an axe to the economy, who don't want to see a border in the Irish Sea, and don't want to see the sort of moving away from strong protections at work and for the environment and consumer standards. So I don't think it's right to say if you voted leave, you want Boris Johnson's leave, because his leave is a very, very bad deal.
I mean, but people aren't fools, and you know, they know that if you really want to remain, then the simplest way of remaining is to vote Liberal Democrat, and if you really want to leave, then the simplest way to leave is to vote Conservative or Brexit Party. And this is why the polls are showing that in the North and in Wales, Labour is losing support. That's why you're so down in the polls in those areas.
Well, let me take that head on, because firstly, I think the idea that the Liberal Democrats are going to be able to get so many MPs, they're going to form the government and get revoked, is for the birds. And therefore, that's a wasted vote if you want to remain. And also, I spoken to many people who voted Remain who feel passionately that if the end result is to be Remain, that has to be won through a referendum and not just by wiping out the result of the last referendum. In other words, if you want to remain, the right thing to do is to make the case in the referendum under a Labour government and win that referendum, not to simply ignore the votes of 17 million people and rub out the result, which is what revoke is.
You are a very clear Remainer yourself personally. What's more important to you, remaining in the European Union or winning this election for Jeremy Corbyn?
Both. Absolutely both. And you can't have one without the other.
Well, you can.
And therefore, I want to win this election, and I want to have a referendum, and I want that decision made between the best deal that can be negotiated and Remain.
But there are lots of ways to stop
Brexit. Not just my position, but the position of the whole party.
There are lots of ways of stopping Brexit, not just having a Labour majority government. And I'm asking you, if it comes down to it, if people really want to stop Brexit but can't stomach the thought of Jeremy Corbyn having a majority, what should they do? Should they vote tactically?
But I'm not sure really what you're putting to me. I do not think...
Well, I'm just putting that
there's going to be... Well, I don't think there's going to be a majority government for revoke on the 13th of December. I just can't see that happening. Therefore, the only way you're getting a referendum, the only way you're going to get to answer that question between the best available deal and Remain is by voting Labour and having a Labour administration.
But, I mean, you are facing one of the most chaotic governments anybody can remember. Your own deputy leader, Tom Watson, is leaving because he clearly doesn't think you're going to win. And you are way behind the Conservatives in the polls. What's the problem?
Well, I accept that. There's a fight. There's a fight to be had. But what I can tell you is this: a week and a bit into the campaign, it feels very good for Labour. If you go into communities, go door knocking, it feels full of energy and positivity and hope. And I contrast that with the start that the Conservatives have had. And in particular, I mean, Jacob Rees-Mogg's comments about Grenfell were absolutely full of contempt for people who live in those blocks. No coming back from that basic divide.
So you should be at 40%, and you're at 20-something. And that's got to be because of your leaders.
We know we've got a challenge ahead of us. Of course we do. But have we got off to a good start? I really think that we have.
How is it a good start when your deputy leader has quit and two of your candidates have had to step down, having been exposed as having been responsible for offensive and potentially anti-Semitic comments?
Well, what I would invite you to do is to come out with us on the campaign trail. I've been in 5 constituencies in Wales today. I've been across a number of constituencies in the last few days with campaign teams on the ground, talking to people at their doors. That's how you get a proper sense of whether a campaign is positive and whether you're getting traction. I'm not going to pretend we haven't got a challenge. Of course I'm not. What I am going to say is we've got off to a very good start and we will build on that. I genuinely think the Conservatives have got off to a very, very bad start.
And just finally, are you a candidate to be Deputy Leader of the Labour Party now that Tom Watson has stepped down?
No.
Will you be a candidate to be leader then?
I want the current leader of the Labour Party to be the Prime Minister under a Labour administration on the 13th of December, and I am totally focused on that.
Sir Keir Starmer, thank you very much.